Hello everybody and welcome to our Victoria 2 modding series, and this time today we're actually discussing terrain types and how to mod in new terrain into Victoria 2. And so while I load up the my own personal mod, I'll go ahead and show you what province we're going to be editing today. First thing you need to know is that at least what I'm going to be doing is adding in a new urban type, which this is actually transferable to whatever you want to do. If you want to add like a new desert terrain type, a new farmland terrain type, that is also completely doable. I actually haven't decided. We're going to do Beijing. I decided. So here you have Peking. It's kind of a big little area, but anyways, ignore that. So Peking is Prov ID 1660. So as you can see right now, it is a hills biome, but that's not going to last. We're going to go ahead and change that into a new terrain type. So what I tend to use is I use paint.net if I'm making a new terrain type. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and back this. So it has to be 374 by 94. So you want to first get your picture of what you're going to be using. Let me see. So what I intend to do is search. You can search whatever you want. So I'm going to be searching Beijing 1900 to see what the city looks like. You guys can search if you want to look at desert type. Just search whatever image you want. Which one's a good one? This looks good enough to me. So we'll go ahead and copy the image. I'm going to go to paint.net, overwrite this, so expand canvas, and go ahead and just edit the size here. That works for me. So adjustment. I usually make my provinces all sepia. Of course, if you're doing like a regular terrain type, you might just want to color it yourself. This is how I do it. Image doesn't matter as much. You can do whatever you want as far as the image goes, but it has to be 374 by 94. If you look at this, it's about 4 pixels off, but that's fine. I'll let it resize. So go ahead and copy that. I use this. So there's a small little border you'll find on pretty much every terrain type. It's literally just a black border, and there's this small transparency on the side. I just go ahead and made my own. I'll put the image right behind that. I have a layer behind that's paint.net. And that's literally it for making the GFX image. And so in this case, all I have to do is rename it. Always make sure there's a terrain underscore and then whatever you want to call it. In this case, I'm making it Beijing. And it has to be a TGA file. So I'm going to save that. Okay, flatten. So now we have our GFX image. If you go over to our terrain types, so my interface folder in GFX, so GFX interface is where that needs to be saved in. You'll see if I go to terrain and Beijing is somewhere. I'm blind right here. This is Beijing. And so now that that is there, what we needed to go ahead and do now is open up a few files. So the first file we'll be opening up is going to be, let's do this, interface. You want to go to provinceinterface.gfx. So you open up provinceinterface.gfx, and towards the bottom here, you'll have a list of different terrain types. And so in our case, we have a terrain type of Beijing we want to add. And so you just add in the sprite. I just copy and paste whatever's here. All you need to really do is change this. This is how it internally references the sprite type. I just changed the last part to whatever you want to be. So if you're doing like a new desert type, just type in like whatever it's called. In my case, it's Beijing, and so I'm typing in Beijing. And of course, just type in right here whatever the file is. So in our case, we have our interface, Supernations, GFX interface, and over here we have Beijing. So I just have to copy that in and put the exact same name for that, so you can know how to reference it. And so Beijing right there, save. That is good. So once that is done, you need to go over to terrain. This folder is over in your maps terrain.text right there. Super easy to find. And you can just go ahead and make your new terrain type. You can reference whatever. So for example, as the marshland, jungle, plains. I'm just copy pasting one of these city types I've already done before. And so in this case, very simple for me. I'm just gonna say Beijing, but you can basically change this however you want. So for example, like a desert, you might have units walk slower. There might be defensive properties, like a mountain has defense equals 3, so there's a 3 defense. The color honestly doesn't do much. I wouldn't worry too much about the color unless you're going to be like messing with this sort of map. I'm not entirely sure how the color works. I don't even want to touch it because every time I've ever touched it, the game just crashes. My mod crashes. So I don't even touch it, but you could basically edit the properties like RGO size, this stuff. For example, mountains, there might be a min build railroad, so you have to have at least level railroad level I think 4 to be able to build railroad level 1 in some of these provinces. So you can do a lot of different changes. Nothing too complicated. This is basically where you'll find any edits you want to make. After that, you'll want to go to your localization. And so in this case, all you have to do is type in. You can type in however it looks right here. There are... Oops. Can't even say. Oops. There are 12 semicolons. And it looks like there's 20 commas right there. If you ever need help, just go ahead and type it in exactly like that. In my case, I'm just calling it Beijing. I'm making all these urban types. So for all these cities, they're all going to be urban. But if you want to have its own specific province image for a city on the map, then you have to kind of make your own terrain type for each of it. But I just call it all urban. And so, of course, I have my semi-desert over here. I did make this called Desert Scrublands. You can do whatever you want as far as localization, whatever you want to call it. Save that. And as soon as you go into the game, like, it's all there. So there's not much else to do besides going to the history file. And so in this case, well, I'm going to delete all these because these are not important. You'll want to make sure that you go into the history files and add in whatever terrain type you added to whatever provinces you want. Otherwise, it's not going to show up in the game. It's not like it's auto-generated or anything. That's what the color code is typically for. But because we aren't using that, honestly, I think it's more difficult, more complicated. This is a little bit an easier way to go ahead and doing it. So in our case, we are going to China. Wherever Peking is, if we can find that. It might not even be here. So we go back into the game, for example, Peking is 1616. And so we want to go to China. So 1616. It might not even be here. It is. For some reason, it's called Shantian. Let me make sure. 1616. Okay. I'm not sure why it says that. But it doesn't matter. You also want to go to the very end. Do terrain equals whatever terrain you're doing. In my case, Beijing. And so as soon as you load up the game, so you can basically go to whatever provinces you want to change the terrain for and go ahead and do that. In our case, we just did it Beijing. I'm going to go ahead and reload this. As you can see, it's just hills right now. And as soon as we reload it, Victoria 2, go into your mod, and it will be in the game. It's pretty simple. It's not too complicated. But obviously, sometimes you might have a little bit of a struggle as far as trying to figure out the process, especially because it does involve an interface file, which usually it's more of an advanced kind of subject. But like I said, it's fairly simple, not too complicated. So yeah, of course, whenever you edit a map file, obviously it has to create textures all over again. Nothing too complicated though. So jump in here. We're going to load up in China. You'll see right here, Peking. So that new pictures there. It's now terrain type equals urban. So that's all there. So and before I made a desert scrublands down here because all this was desert. And historically, obviously, there were railroads and there's like highways that go through here. Of course, these areas might be a little bit more desert-like. But I added in desert scrublands for some of these newer provinces like Northern Mojave or Southern Mojave. I added desert scrublands. So it allows you to at least build the railroads that need to be there. It's not much else of a change. But if you guys do want to add new terrain types into your mod, that's how you do it. So anyways, thank you guys all for watching, and I will hopefully see you guys again. Bye. As always, please leave a like down below and consider subscribing if you would like to see more content just like this, more frequent uploads. If you have any suggestions, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.